Welcome back to Fight IQ. In this episode, we're breaking down UFC Fight Night Emmett versus Murphy. Bit of a gap filler card, this one, I'm not going to lie. But we got a bit to go through here tonight. Few interesting fights, just to kind of keep us wanting more from the UFC until we get to next weekend's card, which is a really big one. But yeah, there's a lot of gap fillers in here. There's a lot of bum fights. There's a lot of fighters that are on their cut fight, if you will. But, you know, here at Fight and Field Insights, we do the breakdowns no one else wants to do. We get into the nitty-gritty with a lot of these fighters. We do the deep dives. So, yeah, without further ado, we're going to get into it. We're going to start from the bottom, work our way up. Vanessa Demopoulos versus Talita Alassar, whatever. Yeah, pretty stock standard, uninteresting women's strawweight fight. Just from the outside looking in, I'm taking Vanessa Demopoulos. She is a bit of a craftier fighter. She's been around for a while, a veteran, if you will. Talita Alassar, she's got 2 fights in the UFC. She won one, she lost one, you know, so on paper, the outside looking in, I'm taking Vanessa Demopoulos here to win this one. But I also think, you know, this might be Talita Alassar's her comeback story. So, yeah, I think I'm still going to go with Vanessa Demopoulos here, but, you know, don't be surprised if, you know, Talita does something really extraordinary and wins a split decision here, so. Next up, we got Victor Henry versus Pedro Falcao. Victor Henry, bit of a dog of the UFC. He's been around for a while. He's been floating around the mid-tier prelim fights for a while. I'm pretty sure his last fight was Charles Jourdain, which he lost. And Pedro's only had one fight in the UFC, which makes him an interesting pick here. I'm not saying I'm going to pick him here, but he's only had one fight in the UFC, and unless you're a huge Pedro Falcao fan and you watched him back in his, Brazilian promotion, wherever he came from, unless you're that devoted of a fan to him, then we don't have much to go off. He's only fought once, and you know this could be a bit of a comeback fight for him after he lost his first fight, his debut. Doesn't look good losing your debut, so that's a bit to go off, but the sky's the limit. You know, when he's only got one loss, we don't really know what he can do. So, that being said, I am taking Victor Henry here. I think he might just be a little bit more crafty. I think he's going to get in there, and he's had the experience under the lights on these prelims in the Apex. So, I'm taking Victor Henry here to hopefully get back in the win column. Next up, we got Loma Lookbone-Me versus Estela Nunes. This is a pretty quick and easy one. I'm going to take a Lookbone-Me just because she's got a bit of a staunch stance here. You know, the arms, a bit Nate Diaz-esque. And, you know, I'm assuming being from the beautiful country of Thailand, she's going to go in there and just rip the leg kicks, man. Throw the big knees up the middle. Clench elbows. Clench heavy approach from Lookbone-Me. Lookbone-Me, sorry. I think she's going to go in there and get a pretty convincing win and, you know, another big strawweight split decision. I'm going to take Lookbone-Me on that one. Rhys McKee versus Daniel Ferunza. Sorry. Rhys McKee, he's a bit of a bum. And by a bit of a bum, I mean he's a lot of a bum. He's been cut from the UFC before. You can tell when they're bums, man, because they're in this the old Reebok kit. The old Reebok kit. This is bum detector right here. As soon as you see that, you're like, oh, yeah, he's a bum. So Rhys McKee, yeah. Last fought in the Reebok shorts. I'm pretty sure it was against Hamzat Chimaev. He's got 4 losses in the UFC, which is brutal. 4 losses in the UFC. He hasn't won a single fight. He's been cut. Now he's back. He's fighting a Dana White Contender Series debutant. And last week's experiences, man, we couldn't pick a single Dana White Contender Series fight right. We picked against both of the fighters on the card, and look where it got us. So this time around, I'm not making any mistakes. We're taking Daniel Ferunza here. It's pretty easy. It's pretty clear cut. This is Rhys McKee's cut fight again. And yeah, I like Daniel Frunze to win this one, just from being a Dana White Contender Series, being young and hungry. Diana Belbita versus Dione Barbosa. Yeah, Belbita looks like a bit of a veteran, 15-9. Looks like she's been hanging around the promotion for a little bit. She's from Romania, so that's probably got to factor into it. She looks a little bit malnourished, I'll admit. You got Barbosa over here. Looks like a brick shit house, fighting at flyweight this time around. So that's pretty big. We picked a bit of a craftier women's fighter earlier in the card, so I'm definitely gonna go the way of a craftier, a younger prospect in Barbosa. Probably craftier too. Let's face it. Balbita I'm sure might get in there and have her moments, but Barbosa looks like a bit of a brick shit house. I mean, she looks a bit like Cyborg, so taking her just off that. Davey Grant versus Daniel Santos. This is a very cool fight. Davey Grant, synonymous with being a bit of a dog. Synonymous with having some decisions, controlling fights quite well. He's got a granite chin. He's going to walk forward with his chin on a silver platter, and he's going to take the shots, and he's going to control the fight where he wants it, 99% of the time. But he's fighting Daniel Santos, and Daniel Santos is on a 2-fight win streak, which is it's got to be credited towards something. So Daniel Santos, I think, a bit more of the prospect here. He's won 2 in the UFC, lost 1. He lost his debut. So yeah, I like Daniel Santos to win this one. I don't want to just jump on the momentum behind these prospects. Sometimes you got to pick a craftier guy. But I just don't know if it's going to be Davey Grant's night, man. I don't know if it's going to be Davey Grant's night. I think he's just going to be beat to the punch a bit by Daniel Santos. And, beat to the punch. Osborne versus Lewis Gruhl. I'm going to take Lewis here on this one. Lewis Gruhl, another Dana White Contender Series fighter. Osborne, don't get me wrong, he's got some good striking. He looked good against Ronaldo Rodriguez at the Sphere. I think that was the Sphere. But yeah, lost that fight. Close fight, but he lost it. And he's got 3 other losses. I think Ronaldo Rodriguez was a 3rd in a row, which could light a fire on him to get in here and beat a Dana White Contender Series guy. But I just don't think it'll happen. Look at the way he's standing. He sort of looks ready. He's in the black shorts. He's the Dana White Contender Series kit. So yeah, I think I like Lewis Gruhl to win this one. I think it's just Osborne's a little bit behind the times. He's 12-8, and this is looking like a card fight. So, on to the main card. Torres Finney versus Robert Valentin. This is the first pretty interesting fight on the card. Both guys are Dana White Contender Series fighters. Robert Valentin is a tough fighter. He's from Tough. But Torres Finney is synonymous with the Dana White Contender Series. He was on there 3 times. He had his whole gimmick. Can you smell what Finney is cooking? Something like that. He had his whole little gimmick. He's a bit of a brick shithouse, I'll admit. He seems huge for middleweight. Like, this picture seems huge for middleweight. He looks like Mark Henry from the WWE. And, if we're looking, like, if we got lookalikes going, we got Robert Valentin. He looks a little bit like Dricus Duplessis or an Alexander Volkov with tattoos. His chest, bad tattoos. But yeah, this is an interesting fight. It's a hard fight, stylistically speaking. Torres Finney's a lot stockier, lower to the ground. I keep forgetting Robert's name. Robert's a lot taller. He's 6'2". He's pretty big for the middleweight division. He's quite average for middleweight, but he's a lot bigger than Torres Finney. Sorry. So yeah, this is actually a hard fight to pick. Torres Finney actually does have the grappling stats. Speaking of stats, he has the grappling, and I don't know. This is a hard one. This is a hard one because you don't want to pick off of a fight, man. Because look at Alexander Volkanovski gets in there. Look at Sean Brady. Sean Brady is often the smaller guy at welterweight, but he's going to get in there and he's going to do what he needs to do against these Leon Edwards, these taller guys. So. Yeah, this is a hard one. I'm actually not too sure here, but I'm pretty high on Torres Finney. I like Torres Finney. But, you know, from what we've seen on the Contender Series, he's good, but he's not great. And Robert Valentin, bigger fighter. Looks like he's probably going to be a little bit better in the later rounds. I can see Torres Finney probably gassing just because of how big he is. So, yeah, I'm going to take Robert Valentin in this one because, you know, I think he'll survive into the later rounds and probably be a lot more well-rounded. Brad Tavares versus Gerald Meerschaert. This is a pretty good fight for Brad Tavares. This is a good bouncy backy kind of fight for Brad Tavares. Okay, stylistically speaking, Gerald Meerschaert does not pose many threats to Brad Tavares. Brad Tavares is pretty good with the sprawls. He's pretty good with his takedown defense. Gerald Meerschaert is synonymous with the grappling and his legendary submission record, but I don't know if he's going to quite get it against an 80% takedown defense. Brad Tavares, which means Gerald Meerschaert's going to be stuck on the feet. And, you know, we've seen that RDA fight, Renan Dorita, I think his name is. We've seen that fight, and Gerald Meerschaert couldn't knock him out with the biggest punches he had. So I'm taking Brad Tavares. Probably control this one on the feet. Sprawl and stuff the takedowns and control it on the feet and get I could almost see him finishing Gerald Meerschaert. I could see an old Brad Tavares finishing Gerald Meerschaert because Brad Tavares' last win was against Chris Weidman. Old Chris Weidman. So, old Gerald Meerschaert, you're looking like the next victim for Brad Tavares. Two old heads going at it. Kennedy Nzechukwu versus Martin Buday. Nzechukwu, sorry. Come on. Bit of a layup here for Martin Buday. No, I'm just joking. Number 15 ranked Kennedy gets it done, man. Yeah, he's looked in good form. Ever since coming up to heavyweight, he just seems quicker than all these guys. All these bigger guys just seem a little bit stuck in the mud. Kennedy's a lot quicker. And I think that's sort of like an evolving thing, is we're seeing these light heavyweights who can put that mass on and fight at heavyweight be a lot more dominant than just these big blobs like the Martin Budays. So, yeah, Martin Buday, man. Slovakia isn't going to get a champion anytime soon out of Martin Buday. I'm getting Kennedy to get this one done, probably via finish. He's been on a roll, so I'm going to get him. I'm going to put him in there to get him my finish. So within 2 rounds. Cortavius, Romius, and then Chango Lee. Lee's actually a bit of a prospect. He's 10-1. Cortavius is 9-3. This is actually going to be a pretty interesting fight. I like that they've kind of put it up here. You know, 3rd feature fight on the main card. I like that. Bit of South Korea versus United States. I don't know what this weight is, if this walk-around weight or this is what they're fighting at. It says they're fighting at bantamweight. If he was 154 and he's coming down to bantamweight, damn, how tall is he? 5'8", man. He's pretty big for a bantamweight. Dude. What's, damn, I'd like to see, I think got a 22%. More of a submission guy. Just by looking at this, man, I'm taking Lee. He's got better striking. He might lack in the grappling. Okay? Yeah, he might lack in the grappling. But if he can keep it on the feet, I think he wins this fight via knockout. Or a pretty... This is either going to go one or two ways. Lee's going to get a good knockout, or Cortavius Romius is going to control the fight. And then win it by decision. So, yeah. Up next, Pat Sabatini versus Joanderson Brito, sorry. Pat Sabatini, man. First things first with Pat Sabatini. This is Sean Brady's boy right here. This is Philadelphia born and bred. Okay, he goes out there and he puts up fights. Okay, last time I watched a Pat Sabatini fight, he was on someone's back choking him out, and I was winning some serious money off that fight. Okay, remember to gamble responsibly. But Joanderson Brito is a different box of frogs, man. He's a pretty dangerous striker. He's an entertaining fighter. I really like Joanderson Brito fights. He goes out there and he fights his guts out. But he's a little bit of... He has low fight IQ. He has low fight IQ. I think he's more or less going out there to hurt these guys, then get a win that's going to put him in a good spot. And for that, I like Pat Sabatini. He's the better grappler by a long shot. By a long shot. Don't let these stats fool you, okay? Pat Sabatini, my boy, trains with Sean Brady. He's not going to go out there and be no bum on the ground. So Pat Sabatini's either going to he's going to control this fight on the ground really well, ground and pound, all that, or he's going to get a submission. I want Pat Sabatini to win this. Okay, I got to back the Philadelphia boys through and through. But if Joanderson Brito wins this with a finish or something, that'd also be really cool. But I'm going to take Pat Sabatini in this one. I think he's got the grappling. He's got the grappling. So on to the main event: Lerone Murphy versus Josh Emmett at the Apex. It's a bit of a shame it's at the Apex. Okay, it is a bit of a shame because this is a cool fight. This is a cool fight, and you kind of want to see these guys in front of a crowd because Josh Emmett always sort of invokes these life or death fights. I swear, Josh Emmett, he's either always getting beat up bad or he's flatlining Bryce Mitchell's. So, but Lerone Murphy, kind of boring. Like, I haven't really watched a Lerone Murphy fight that stands out to me. The Edson Barbosa fight was just, it was meh. And, but he's an undefeated prospect, Lerone Murphy. We don't have too many of those floating around that are up here in the number 10s and 8 ranks. So, I think Josh Emmett's time's passed a little bit. He's getting up there in age. I think we've seen the best out of Josh Emmett. He's had a few wars. CTE might be catching up with him a little bit. I think Lerone Murphy just has the higher output. He's got to be able to keep it on the outside, and Josh Emmett isn't just going to be able to stalk him and just drop one of them big bombs. He's not a... Josh Emmett isn't an Ilya or someone with the technical boxing that can really corral you up against the cage and then put your lights out. If you're pretty good at staying on the outside and keeping away from that big overhand, then you're probably safe against Josh Emmett. So, I'm not counting Josh Emmett out. Power's the last thing to go. But Lerone Murphy, undefeated prospect. I feel like the card's almost kind of built around him. So, I like Lerone Murphy to win this one. I like Lerone Murphy to get it done by decision. If you got money to bet with, put it on Lerone Murphy by decision. There's not going to be nothing too flashy coming out of this fight. I'm sorry, but yeah, that's the whole card. There's a few cool ones on there. I'm excited to see Pat Sabatini back in there. I'm actually quite excited to see the main event. This fight has actually just caught my interest. I'll be tuning in for this one and the Kennedy and Nzechukwu fight. So, but other than that, Torres Finney will be an interesting one as well. So, yeah, we didn't have such a great run on the UFC Mexico card. We got a fair few picks wrong. All we can hope for with this one is that we have a little bit more good luck. We did a little bit more research. Okay, we didn't pick fighters off of if they were a dog. We definitely we looked at we connected the dots and we did the P's and Q's on this one. We tried to make sure we had the right guys winning the right fights. So. Yeah, but anyway, thanks for watching another episode of Fight IQ, guys, and